Hello, my name is Lukas Oldenburg and I will show you how to get started with the Adobe Analytics Component Manager for Google Sheets by Datacroft. You will need system administrator rights in your Experience Cloud and about 15 to 30 minutes. So first of all, I assume you have installed our Google Sheets add-on and have opened any Google Sheet of yours, ideally a new empty document. Now go to Extensions, Adobe Analytics Component Manager, and then click Setup. And this will first import all the necessary tabs. You'll see a lot of tabs popping up and getting moved, etc. It will take a while, and I'll stop this video and come back when it's done. Now we're done. You see on the bottom right it says all done, finished recreating the sheet. After reviewing the terms and conditions as well as our data protection info, we can close this overlay. Now we need to fill in a couple of fields in the Config tab with Adobe Analytics credentials and other basic info. If you have already done that, you can run setup again and finish the initialization of your component manager. Skip to the last part of the video for that. If you haven't done this yet, just follow the next steps in this video. First of all, go to console.adobe.io and then click on Create New Project. So we've created the project. We'll rename it to something that makes sense. Component Manager example. And now we add an API. Click on Add API, then choose Adobe Analytics. Next. Then Service Account, JWT. Next. Generate a key pair and click on Generate a key pair. You now get prompted with a zip download and we'll save this zip file as config private key. Now we click Next and we need to give that user a product profile. It doesn't really matter which one it is, but select any you find appropriate. Click on Save Configured API, and we have successfully configured the API access. Now if you scroll down, you see this section called Service Account JWT, and you see the credentials. Click on Retrieve Client Secret to get the client secret, and then go to the Adobe Analytics Component Manager Google Sheet, and then to the Config tab. Here in the Config tab, you'll have these 4 rows with Client ID, Secret, Tech ID, Org ID. Simply copy the values from here. Client ID goes to Client ID, Secret, Client Secret goes to Secret, Technical Account ID goes to Tech ID or Technical Account ID. Org ID, of course, to Org ID, and you'll notice that I'll skip the technical account email because that one is not needed for the API access, even though both look like email addresses. One is called the technical account ID. This is what you paste into this sheet here, account ID. The technical account email, often confused, is what we need now to set up the Adobe Analytics user in your Adobe Analytics account. So we'll copy that. So now we have to go to the admin console of the Experience Cloud. And now go to the admin console. It should be here or down here if you don't find it in this list. Now the fastest way is clicking on Products, then on Adobe Analytics, and then on Admins. Now you click on Add Admin, and you simply paste the technical account email. Again, the technical account email, not the technical account ID. And you immediately see name none, email, and you see something like enterprise ID and SSO username. We'll click Save. And now this new user should appear here. That's it. You're almost set. So now we'll go back to the Component Manager again, and we'll go back to the Config tab again. So I'm the Config tab here. And at the same time, I have the zip file with the private key open. And then I open it. So I make sure I have this somewhere ready now, because I'm going to need it for the setup. So we'll start the setup again to finish it. So again, Adobe Analytics Component Manager, and then setup. Now we have to agree to the terms and conditions that we were shown previously when we did the initial setup, when we imported the tabs, etc. And now we're getting walked through a lot of prompts. First, we have to confirm that we actually set up these credentials. We did that, perfect. Then we have to confirm the client ID, and you see, since we populated it here, it's already showing as the current value, so we can simply click OK. Then the client secret is also there already. The technical account ID, we've already set that up as well. Then we have the Adobe org ID. And finally, we have to paste the private key. And I'm going to do that now from my clipboard. And then it asks you, should we import names and email addresses of your Adobe users? This will, for example, display the owner name of a workspace or a segment. And it's also a helpful feature for the account usage stats. We'll click no here, but you can click yes, whatever your organization is fine with. Then confirm or leave blank your base report suite ID. And finally, you have to confirm or change your base report suite ID. We'll leave this as it is right now. We'll confirm that later on. Now it says, thank you. We're now initializing your account. And you can change the data anytime. So if you made a mistake, you can just run the setup again and just fill in all these values again. And you see stuff here is changing. We get a company ID. We get setup status, initializing, in progress. Contract start and end is shown. And when you're done, you should get a toast message here on the bottom that says setup result, component manager account and AA connection were successfully initialized. And you also see here now setup status is success. You'll see the details for your trial contract. So you first start with a trial contract, and during that trial period, you can use the full functionality of the component manager. And after that, it becomes the free version of the component manager. And if you want to use the component manager for real, contact us, go to our website, datacraft.de, and then click on component manager. You can either use the contact form or just call us or write us an email. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Now, finally, we'll have to set up the base report suite ID. And for that, we'll import the first data from Adobe Analytics into our component manager. We'll go to report suites and we'll just say refresh report suites. And this will just refresh the list of report suites in the report suites tab. We'll click yes. And as with all component manager functions, you'll have a status bar on each tab. And in the status bar, you see what's happening. That's where the server writes its information into. So the report suite list was updated. We see the report suite list here now. And the first column is the report suite ID. And now we just select the report suite ID that we want to use as the base report suite. It usually is the report suite ID where most of your Adobe Analytics stuff is going on. So your main report suites. I'll paste it here. And if we go back to the Datacraft getting started page, you also see some info on what is the base report suite ID. And feel free to read this, but basically it means that when we import EVARs, props, and success events, the component manager has to know from which report suite it should take those EVARs, props, and success events. Because I mean, segments, calculated metrics, and date ranges, they are report suite independent. You can use any segment in any report suite in your Adobe Analytics account, but EVARs, props, and success events are of course dependent on a particular report suite, and that's basically what this report suite, this base report suite ID does. So that's it, we're done. So what you can do now, you can use a function that populates the most important tabs with data. So go to AA Component Manager, Other, then click Populate All Tabs. And this will then populate a couple of tabs, actually not all, but most of them with data. And since this is the first time you're going to populate some of those tabs, it will take a long time. If you have a large account, it can take an hour. So click OK and then do something else for a while. Don't disturb it. So the tabs have populated. The last one is the component usage tab. And we now see workspaces. We see all the components, calculated metric segments, date ranges, EVARs, props, etc. We also have account usage stats and report suites. And we can now start using the component manager. Now check out the other tutorials under main functions, which explains all the functionality of the component manager in depth with videos, so you'll have no trouble getting started. So I hope you have fun with the Datacraft Component Manager, and it will make your life with Adobe Analytics much more efficient. You'll save a lot of time and enable your users to have a much cleaner, much tidier, and much more user-friendly Adobe Analytics experience. Thank you very much.